Hey guys, this is Alex Heberling, and welcome back to part 2 of how I color an evil ink. Right now we're going to get started on the shading. And for shading I use this soft airbrush, and I have a couple, several different, swatch files that I converted from my old Photoshop swatches and whatnot. So I have this file called Working Swatches, and that's just kind of where all of the mishmash that I use, here and there goes. And so, this is sort of my default shading color for evil ink these days. It's kind of a muted, lilac-y color. And unless I'm doing something like, with strong environmental lighting or whatnot, I tend to use this color. So I usually shade the backgrounds first, since that is easier. And this is where my flats layer comes in really handy, because I can just select things while I'm on the shading layer, but it refers to the flats layer, and I don't even have to do anything. Before, when I was coloring in Photoshop, I would have to switch to the flats layer, make a selection, switch back to the shading layer, that kind of thing. But then Manga Studio came into my life, and I didn't have to do that anymore. It was grand. The background in this panel is pretty small, but I'm still going to kind of go in and do these details that I've done on the last several pages that had the set in the background. And I'm just using my rectangle marquee to do that. And I'm with my magic wand. You see it gets that little X thing. It's because I'm holding down Shift and Alt. There's different hotkeys and command keys, that you can use with various tools to speed up things. And what I did there was I hit Control H, which hides the selection so you can't see it, which is easier for me because the dancing ants while I'm trying to color something can sometimes be a little distracting. And so I just go in with my soft brush and I add in shading. And this is how I color my comics, this is how I color Brad's comics. I go pretty quick. And there I'm using the gradient tool, which is, this. Anyways, I go pretty quick just because I've kind of got a system and pretty much know what to do. There's not a whole lot of surprises these days. I'll darken that window just a little bit so it doesn't pull focus away. I'm not sure if I want to rotate it. I'll just do it this way. Manga Studio also has a smudge tool, which I use to soften up some of my some of the contours, like so. Nope. Sometimes I hit keys too fast and they do other things than what I want them to do. But I won't bore you all with that. I don't like them. Oh, and you can see there, oop, I made my intersect selection, but it didn't select the pants, so I'm going to kind of do it backwards. And deselect everything I don't want selected. Wait, no. Shadows, not highlights yet. It's not the time for them yet. Excuse me. So that is all. Well, actually, that is not all. Just adding a little bit more roundness to Argus's face. But now we can move on to the highlights. I start a new layer, or I make a new layer, and I fill it all with black. And that is just because of how the blending modes in Manga Studio work for brushes, which is just slightly different from how they work in Photoshop. For a brush whose blending mode is screen, which my detailing highlighter here is, if it's on a layer set to screen, and I use white to draw on it, in Photoshop that would give you a bunch of white lines. But in Manga Studio it does not work that way. You have to already have pixels on the canvas for a brush with the screen blending mode to show up with things and stuff. So the first step is going through and adding little specular highlights here and there, like on Grandpa's glasses. And for this I usually sample the color that the object is. But for like eye shines and stuff like that, I just use plain old white. And for like a far away panel like here, I'll just use white as well. I also do this for things like gloves, to give them more of a like shiny, latexy, rubbery superhero kind of look. But for everything else, I use another sort of soft airbrush. It's similar to the Cmyk shading airbrush, except the blending mode is screen. And like everything else, and like I did with the dark shading, I just select areas and start adding in some highlights, usually sampling the color underneath. Especially skin and hair. And often I'll blend out edges and stuff like that with the blending tool, or blending brush, or whatever you want to call it. Let's make that just a hair smaller. Good at hair. I'm hilarious. I think I just want to add a little bit of lightness to the background on this panel. And shading is done. I'm going to reappear the copyright line and signature as well as the background paper color. Give that a save. And we can jump back to Photoshop. Photoshop, where did you go? There you are. Now I take a copy of this and I put it in my own personal file. It still has all the layers and working layers and all that kind of thing. But for Brad, he doesn't really need all that stuff. So I open it back up into Photoshop. And first I'm going to select all. And then I select layer, copy merged, which is Shift Control C. So that's what I just did. Then I open up a new thing, enter in the date as the file name. And this is the copy that will get turned into the web version that goes on the website. But here, back to the file that I give to Brad. I merge all my colors layer. I don't need Brad's layers anymore. I just need these, you know, six layers. Copyright, signature, line art, trap, and colors. And now I'm going to convert it to Cmyk color. Do not merge. And for most strips, it's not going to look different. You know, not terribly anyway. The thing I have to do next is to prepare it for Cmyk printing. And that is select my line art. Actually, no, select all and go over to my channels. And I go through and delete the cyan, magenta, and yellow channels. Use my threshold command again on the line art. Set it to darken. And this is where that trap layer comes in. I'll zoom in here so you can see better. And I'll reappear all my layers. So if I didn't have that trap layer, here the line art would not print correctly. You would be able to see the I think this is called like flashing or something. You'd be able to see the borders between colors, and that doesn't look good. So that's why we have that duplicate trap layer, just to sort of get everything, sort of cover up all of those boundaries and stuff like that, so that when you have the line art, it looks nice and black. And that's just sort of a tip for folks doing comics and converting it to Cmyk. And so all I need to do is save that. And then I just move that over to the covered photo folder. And Brad will know that that is ready to be archived and whatnot. And so we have this web version here. This is still in RBG mode up here. So I just basically reduce the size of it down to the web-friendly size. And then I save it in the colored folder as a JPEG. And that is it. That is how I color enable ink. Let me know in the comments if you guys have any questions. And thank you all so much for watching. I will see you soon. Bye!